So the main objective of our study was to figure out a way to count the number of nearshore semi-pelagic rockfish in Oregon. They're the most important fishery we have for our recreational fleet. They're basically what people fish for. And so population of them coming down, the stock assessments are starting to struggle a bit, and we had no fisheries independent surveys to go into those. So we needed a cost-effective, kind of efficient way to do that, which we knew was acoustics, but we knew there were some struggles and kind of components built into using acoustics. The big challenge that we ran into using acoustics, like I said, they're great because they're efficient, but where they really struggle is in bottoms that are really rough, and rockfish are well named. They live in rocky habitats, so where that bottom is really bouncy, that's where they are. So the acoustics struggle to see them right on the bottom. Rockfish are really diverse. In Oregon, we have like 80 different species, and so some live right down in and amongst rocks. The acoustics would struggle to see those because basically a beam comes down, hits the bottom, and those edges where the beam is kind of angling up, it won't be able to see in there. So the concern was, what if we're missing most of the fish in the bottom? That doesn't make it very useful for management, because if we only see 50% and it's not even consistent, that could be a problem. So that's what we wanted to really kind of dig into is was the tool actually going to be effective in these rocky reefs for these fish that live in that type of habitat? When we're trying to understand how that near bottom area could be an issue for acoustics, one of the main tools that people usually use in those areas is a ROV, a remotely operated vehicle. They're great because they drive right along the bottom. Their cameras look right at the bottom. This is where they work. This is where they're great. The problem, at least for us with our ROV, is they can't get out enough and cover enough ground in a year to be a useful tool for fisheries management. So what we did is we took the ROV, our acoustics, and then we built a camera that we could just kind of throw over the side of the boat and pick up quickly as an intermediary between the acoustics and the ROV. And the question was, do we miss all those fish that are kind of right down there in the bottom? And with the drop camera, that quick camera, provide accurate data. What we found is that we actually miss all the fish that we want to miss, the ones that we're not trying to see with the acoustics. And most of the fish we want to see are just above that dead zone. They're available to the acoustics. And the couple that are missed, we're actually able to use that drop camera to correct those data and make it a very high quality data set for fisheries management. The ROV can be the same kind of cameras. There are hundreds of different kinds of ROVs. They do have higher resolution cameras by and large. We just use cheap GoPros because if you're throwing something into a rocky bottom, there's a good chance you're going to lose it. And so I just want to make it cheap, and so I can have a few of them, and if I lose it, it's not great. I'm leaving trash, but at least I'm not kind of wasting things. The thing really with the ROV is that it can drive along the bottom and cover a longer area. If I just throw a camera in one spot and I'm looking out, I don't get as much data out of it. Plus in Oregon, our visibility sucks. This is not the tropics. I don't get to see 50 feet. I'm lucky if I can see like 3/4 of a meter. So, I just don't see as many fish because of it that way. This study that we conducted here was really integral in us taking our data to the Pacific Fisheries Management Council, who does the stock assessment for these species. We used this, and we actually went out and did a full survey using the acoustics and our little drop camera that was effective from border to border in Oregon, Washington to California, and we counted, 4,000 or 5,000 kilometers worth of transects. We were able to create a number of black rockfish and blue and deacon rockfish in the state of Oregon. We put those into the stock assessments, and with black rockfish, by having that survey, we were able to keep the stock from actually dropping into the point where it became precautionary. And so basically, this data set is what is keeping fishermen on the water fishing currently. And so if we continue to do this study, our study says there are more fish than the stock assessment, it likely will mean that people can continue to utilize the resource and we won't have as many restrictions for the fleet. This method, effectively any fish that are right up off the bottom are available to acoustics. This is a perfect tool for them. I'm kind of the philosophy, any boat driving around should really always have acoustics running because you can learn a lot. You can also learn about zooplankton, those kind of basic food web type things, and all this kind of thing. Cameras are really fantastic. We're trying to extract less, especially as scientists. We don't need to always go out and kill a bunch of fish. And so throwing a camera over the bottom, or the side, getting a little bit of information on what you see, the orientation of fish, the type of fish, you can do a ton more with your acoustics doing that. For us, when we did our camera, from deciding to drop our camera to picking it up and the boat keeping going took 6 minutes. It was not a huge investment in time, and so it can really be a thing that's added in and really make what the vessel's getting out of it highly beneficial to many species throughout the world. So I think for us specifically, the work that we need to do is when you take acoustics and you turn them into an abundance of fish, you use a thing called a target strength length relationship. we're using data from Japan and Korea and fish on their rockfish over there. We need some more localized studies that give us that. Just make it a little bit more precise in what we're doing. That's very focused and pushed in. The other thing is acoustics are now starting to have a wideband technology, which may remove the effects of dead zones. And looking at that and kind of thinking if that can actually make them even more effective in these types of habitat is definitely something that needs to be done and kind of considered. As for other habitats, really any habitat that's got rough, rocky bottom or places where acoustics struggle, this type of camera quickly thrown over the side that floats up into the schools of fish, can be easily moved and things like that, is a really great way to allow you to correct for those data and kind of adapt the acoustics to these situations where historically they may not have been done.